Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and can I tell you something? He doth returneth. Yes, he does. His name is Dr. Alan Patterson, and he comes back bearing more gifts from his great book, Burn Ladders and Build Bridges. He is absolutely outstanding. He's holding up his book. I know if you're driving down the road, you're going, what are they doing? And I'm telling you what we're doing is we're holding up the book. The book's called Burn Ladders, Build Bridges. Oh, we had so much fun last week. It is so rare that I get people to come on the following week. It just doesn't happen often because I schedule these shows so far in advance. As it turns out, I had the author that I originally had planned was ill and just couldn't do the show. And he wrote me last minute, and I called Dr. Patterson because I said, hey, I know you're supposed to be on November 9th, and I know this is like in a couple hours, but would you have time to, I don't know, talk about part 2 of Burn Ladders and Build Bridges? And he said, okay. Who does that in today's world? I'll tell you who does that. Dr. Alan Patterson does that. It's absolutely. What's that?
I'm too easy.
You are way easy, Dr. P. I'm just telling you, Dr. P, you're way too easy. Hey, listen, we're going to get back to it, but before we do that, let's do what we do every week, right? And that is this. You know what? Listen, we are 4-part people. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And the truth of the matter is, you know, as those type of people, we need to be working on ourselves every day in those 4 areas. Because, you know, the truth is we don't stay static. In fact, what we find out regularly is that if we're not growing, we're in essence dying. And so we have to be working on ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually every day, right? So we have this thing that we do. We check in every week, you know, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being my training is not going, my training could not be worse. And 10 is my training is absolutely where I want it to be. And here's the deal. When we talk about these numbers on these scales, right? And I get asked a lot of times, should I be averaging these numbers across all 4? No. Each one is its own thing. And then 5 is an average for each section, whether it's mental, physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional. And so I don't want you to do is get caught up in the number. What I want you to get caught up into is whatever that number is, it is. But what I want you to do is I want you to go, okay, what can I do to be better? Right? It's about looking at yourself in the mirror. And if the person from yesterday showed up, could you look at that person and be better than they are in those 4 areas? One of the Delta Force or the unit guys has said that, you know, can you kick, if your clone from yesterday showed up, could you kick its tail? And it's a great question, isn't it? Right. And that's the point of the numbers. All right. So first number you're going to give yourself is physically, right? Scale 1 to 10. You're going to ask yourself in the areas of like eating right, physical exercise, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water. How would you rate yourself on that scale 1 to 10? Right. Okay. 5 is average. Whatever that number it is, okay, it is. But then what are you going to do to change it right now? You could start doing something right now. It doesn't matter. It could be something right now you need to change. Pick up a bottle of water, put down the soda, you know, decide to eat another salad instead of, you know, all the carbohydrates, you know, stop eating sugar, you know, processed sugar. Could be something simple as that. So that's your first number. Second number is your mental intellectual number. And what I'm asking for you here is on that scale of 1 to 10, I'm asking you, you know, look, you know, what are you doing to improve yourself mentally? You know, the truth of the matter is sometimes it's hard to do things physically. I get that. You know, maybe you're limited physically to do some things. I understand those things, but you know, our mind is never limited. You could be picking up a book and you could be reading it. You could be learning more about how to do your job. One of the things about Dr. Patterson says in his book, and I love what he says, you know what, you're responsible really for your own growth. Nobody else is responsible for it. And you know, the truth of the matter is that when it comes to learning about your next career or your next job, you could be doing all sorts of things, investing in yourself to learn how to become better at your current career or your next career. But that takes mental growth. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself? Mental, intellectually. Third area is emotional. Daniel Goleman is responsible for giving us the letters EQ emotional quotient, and we talk about emotional intelligence. I break it down 2 ways, real simple for you. First one is, how well are you able to control your emotions under stress and pressure, right? That means, like, how do you respond? When somebody cuts you off in traffic, or you have to wait a little longer in the grocery line, or somebody doesn't get started right away at the stoplight, right? How's your response? And then the second is, how well are you able to really, truly tap in and understand the emotions of other people? Do you really listen to what they're saying, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself there? All right, and then finally, okay, that's your third number. Finally, fourth number is spiritual. And a lot of people get confused about the spiritual. The truth of the matter is, the spiritual is, what is it that you run to when things go bad, right? And is it working for you? When life deals you blows, and it will, what gives you comfort? What do you have faith in? What is it, or who is it that you run to for peace and centeredness in the midst of chaos? And then you have to ask yourself, is it working? Because if it's not working, you need to change it. It could be, a lot of people, for some people it's God, for some people it's nature, for some people it's meditation. It could be a number of things. Question is it working? And then what do you got to do to change it? Those 4 numbers are like the legs, not the legs, but like the tires on your car, right? If your tires are not inflated appropriately, you know what happens? Your car will lean to the right or go to the left, right? Or if it's too low, the rims will start wearing down and you ruin the car. And it's what happens when our tires are not inflated correctly. It's the same thing in these 4 areas. These 4 areas are not at that height that they should be, then we run wrong, right? We get off course. It's harder for us to steer ourselves. So we want to make sure our tires are inflated correctly, just like these 4 areas. Because when we do, then we live a life that is so much better for us to live, and it's easier for us to live. And speaking of someone who has his tires inflated appropriately, his name is Dr. Alan Patterson. More than 3 decades of international consulting experience in change management, leadership development, and executive coaching. He formed Mentore, a consulting practice that focuses on aligning strategy and organizational structure, and helps people with job responsibilities and skill sets to major shifts in business. His expertise has been used by the likes of Anheuser-Busch, the Federal Reserve Bank, Johnson & Johnson, Hewlett-Packard, Major League Baseball, U.S. Navy, and that's just a few. You may have heard of those. He's been featured speaker, and you know how I feel about that as a featured speaker, folks. If you're listening to the show and you hire speakers, hire him immediately. He's a great workshop leader, expert resource for the American Institute of CPAs, for CPAs, ALCPA, and the Business Learning Institute. He served as an adjunct faculty at both the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and Oshkosh, and also the graduate schools at Bryant University and Lesley University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, and welcome back for a second week, Dr. Alan Patterson. Welcome back, Doc.
Jay, you know what I just realized?
What's that?
You know how you see things, but you don't really see things? Uh-huh. Your last name is Izso.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool.
Yeah, it is. It's Izso. I get accused. A lot of people go, is that Italian? And no, it's not Italian. Actually, its roots are Hebrew, believe it or not. It's what the roots are from. Are the roots there? So yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm very, and that's a whole nother story, another journey. Yeah. We're going to talk about your 5 pillars. I call them the 5 pillars, but I want to start with a quote, because there was a quote that I think is so important that you say in chapter 5 of the book, which, by the way, is for people who are wondering these titles, chapter titles. It's called "The Pursuit of Meaning," and fabulous chapter. I think it's to me, it's one of the best chapters in the entire book. It centers it for me. It's like the center of the book, where everything that jumps off of both sides. And here's the quote. You said, a few years ago, a marketing specialist I was working with asked me to define my unique value proposition. Boy, I hate that when people ask me.
Yeah, I do too.
I saw it as a trick question. I didn't understand it, and I could only laugh. I do remember, though, when I was asked, who was the enemy? The dragon I was slaying for the good of my clients. That one I understood. And the answer to that one was, the dragon was
The corporate ladder.
corporate ladder. And this is the thing I think that I want people to know or listen to this. The whole idea of burning ladders, right, is that, I know that some of you are trying to climb this thing, thinking that you're going to get to this top. And what Dr. Patterson is so brilliantly done here in this book is he said, look, you know what? It's kind of a myth. No, not kind of, it is a myth. Because you're climbing, but you're not necessarily going to get there. And are you doing a work that's actually meaningful that you really want to do deep down? And, I've had, I wrote you this, but there was one person who wrote me back and said, I loved the show so much last week that I bought the book. And so, Lloyd, thanks for purchasing the book. I appreciate you reaching out to me and saying that. And Dr. Patterson does.
Me too.
Yeah, and Dr. Patterson as well. So you talk about ladder burners. I call them mavericks. I just want to give people an idea. This may be who they are. This is how ladder burners think. And you chime in if you want to add to any of these perspectives. Ladder burners, how ladder burners thinks, approach the world of work from a let's see where this takes me perspective. That's so maverick to me. It just is. Let's see where this goes.
It's like, what's that? What's inside?
I love the curiosity. It's a curiosity thing, right?
No doubt.
Right? What happened to our curiosity?
It got engineered out, Jay.
Yeah, we don't dream. We get older and we stop dreaming.
Yeah.
When we're kids, we're not afraid to dream.
Not at all.
But we get to this thing we call adulthood or adulting, as people now say, and we go, nah. No, you gotta have your head on straight. God, I'm not buying it.
Well, I'm sure when we meet for the third time, whenever that is, there's a lot to be said for delayed adolescence. There's something very joyful about that. It's like one time somebody told my wife at the time that I was a 7-year-old inside a 50-year-old body. And I said, I really resent that because I feel more like a 18-year-old in a 30-year-old body.
Yeah, I hate that because the second way they think is our restless explorers.
Well, you said to me something last week that I found very, very important and instructive, and that was this kind of rifle shot. This is not a scattered view of the world. This is not, in this case, slay every dragon. This is I want to see what's going on here. And I want to understand it. I don't know that I'll agree with it, but there is something that's magnetic that kind of pulls ladder burners and how's this? Misfits, which is another name, rebels, mavericks that say, I want to understand this better. And I think that's the piece that I find to be most indicative of ladder burners. There's a door that opens and it's like, let's take a look inside.
Yeah, we do. I know we do. We do. I endlessly curious. Search for creative environments that reflect their intrinsic motivation. That one seems a little bit more complicated. Is it?
It is, because what is intrinsic motivation? Well, that's what's critical and important to you individually, not even you as a human as much as just the whole combination of nature and nurture. And you say that it's not, I don't even call it passion. Intrinsic motivation is not my concept. Psychologists have dealt with this for years. But what I'm saying is, when you find someone or someone's that touches that, there's a reason to be in that person's presence. That's the way I see it. These are the people. I mean, think of the best teacher you ever had. You told me last week, think of the best coach you ever had.
Oh yeah.
Think of the best colleague. And I don't mean best like best buddy. It's just like you wrestle and then you go out for a beer. I mean, what do these people do to you, and what do you do to them? They just light a fire. They crawl inside and they massage your heart. I mean, what do they do? I don't know. What do they do, Jay?
Right. Well, right. They just impact you on such a great level. Right. And when it comes to that environment, when you're searching for those people or those environments that reflect their intrinsic motivation, sometimes this is why we have to be curious, because you don't know what those environments are.
I used to tell teachers when I was doing teacher training, and you tell me what your experience has been. I would say, look, I don't know, what is it? Social studies, English. Here's a way to get started. Pick something that you were 100% invested in and talk about it, and kids will listen. Doesn't matter what it is. Because if you're excited, they're willing to listen. And I would say, think of people that you've listened to. You have no idea what their specialty is. They're talking about geological, or my buddy I told you is a meteorologist. And when he explains things, half of which I don't fully understand, I have to listen.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, I totally get it. Yeah. We love listening to people who love what they do.
Absolutely.
Right? Which leads us to the next point, which is they are story makers, tellers, and listeners.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's who ladder burners, how they think. They have big imaginations. This next one, they have big imaginations. I love this. And are not afraid to make things up as they go, including their jobs are moving in a non-linear direction. I love that, because I know that's me. I have this huge imagination. I'm not afraid to make things up as I go. I'll just make it up. We'll figure it out along the way. My wife is a planner, right? She wants everything planned, right? Yeah. I'm kind of like, no, let's just go. We will figure it out. We will figure it out along the way. We kind of fly by the seat of my pants. That's not the way she's wired. That's the way I'm wired, right? And, my job career, by the way, people think the job career has been, like this. No. It's like somebody gave a 3-year-old an Etch-a-Sketch, if you can remember what that is, right?
Yeah,
and they started turning the knobs all over, and it's this squiggly line that runs along. That's what my career path looks like.
Yeah. How exciting.
And isn't that great? It's so much fun. Here's the next thing. They invest in learning their trade, and I love this too. And over time, they invest more in understanding people they have surrounded themselves with.
Yeah. You think there's a fella here in Fond du Lac that's in Rotary Club. I know him. He's a bow maker. Mm-hmm. Bow, as in for violins or cellos. Mm-hmm. He makes bows. Who does that?
I don't know.
He's and to hear his story, which has a lot of moving parts to it, but it kind of points in that direction. It tells you that something, I want to understand that. How does somebody come upon that?
Right.
And stay with it.
Yeah.
And the guts of it, a lot of the guts of it is he loves the detailed work that he can do with his hands.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
It's just too good.
It is just too good. It's so good. You know what's so good? Dr. Patterson's book, Burn Ladders and Build Bridges. You're listening to Dr. P and me right here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, listen, 2 sponsors, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapist. They should be your physical therapist too, by the way. they treat, they design treatment programs that are tailored to your individual needs. They work with people like you and me, young athletes, professional athletes. Look, when you're looking for epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, look no further. Look at epicpt.com. And Linda Craft, that's EPICPT.com, by the way. Linda Craft and Team Realtors, for more than 35 years, they have been helping people all over the world because they are connected with the top real estate people in your area. When you're ready to sell your home, buy your home, go to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And Hint Water, it's the official water of DBTV, by the way, dbtv.tv. And I want to just tell you something, which is the official water and beverage of DBTV. We are going to be on this show, which is on DBTV if you have Roku or Fire Stick. We are actually going to be on cable networks coming up. This show will be on cable networks. And so check your local area, wherever you're at in the world, because we're going to be coming to some cable networks around the world, and including the US and Canada. So check us out. We're looking forward to that, and get yourself some hint. And we're back here on A New Direction with Dr. Alan Patterson and his book, Burn Ladders, Build Bridges.
You like that title, don't you?
I love that title. I love that title. I want to go through some of these, but I hope people have got a sense that maybe you fit into these questions. By the way, one of the ones that I really love, and I think will relate to everybody out there, is they don't worry about the credentials and experience, being unhappy for position. They don't worry about that. They just, it's not about the credentialing, and they just go. So I want to move into the ladder burner skill set, the 5 pillars, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So let's start right away with pillar number 1, competence and credibility. All right. So, okay, why is building a base of competence and credibility so important? And you talk about work as a lab, not a study hall. How does that all fit?
Oh, I think that's pretty clever, don't you? Work's a lab, not a study hall. Here's what people know. This is how many, if not most people, approach their job, because it's how they've been educated as well. It's around stuff. It's around a specialty. And there's a lot to be said for that. You don't have to choose and I'm not saying it comes from your major. It's the content of your job. At some point, you need to be extra smart about your craft, that particular, I call it technical specialty. Well, everybody knows that because that's what is behind the ladder. That's how people move up, is that they're good performers and they know their stuff and extra credentials and everything that's related, knowledge-based and experience-based is there. The missing piece that you will not allow to be a missing piece is, at some point, people, if you're to build credibility with others, it means that people trust you and believe in you because you help them solve their problems, make their lives better. And that, as you know, as people, as they study this, know, as they study emotional intelligence, it's not how smart you are. It's how people attribute value to help them solve their problems. So it's not, many people think, well, I gain credibility by going deeper. I just get more knowledge and more experience. And the reality, as I see it, maybe it's just my opinion, but the way I see it is, there is a point where nobody cares. What they care about, and let's use a doctor, for example. When I was a kid, I broke my arm and I got wheeled into the emergency room. And I remember the doctor telling my mother, he said, what I'm going to do now took me 8 years in 30 seconds took me 8 years to learn. So that part is the part on the technical side. But the other part about building credibility is that without the ability for people to trust you and believe that you can deliver on your commitments, I didn't say this. Goldman said it in all kinds of research. You will put yourself into a box in your career, and I'm saying, and you will top out. So I don't care where you start. It doesn't matter where you start. You said, well, I started off at Orange Julius or Burger King or something. It's like, yeah, okay, everybody's got to start somewhere. But
Right.
at some point, you get to be known because of not just what you know and what you've done, but your ability to provide something of importance to someone else. That's a given. That's a base. Without it, you can't have one. You can't have just one and not the other. I mean, rarely would you see somebody that had the emotional intelligence but didn't have the technical competence, because people respect the knowledge, and that knowledge is also part of building credibility. But it is not the only way, because the difference is you're not studying stuff, you're starting to study people. And I don't care whether you major in psychology or electrical engineering. I say there's not a choice here. You don't have to be great at it, but you have to be good. And if you're not, you will have missed the proverbial train. There's these, I mean, and the folks that get arrogant about it, that think that knowledge is everything and they're the smartest person in the room, nobody cares and everybody gets upset by that. People just don't care. You don't have to prove you're smart. You want to be able to go to the doctor that will say, I'm going to fix your arm in 30 seconds.
Right.
That's what you want.
Right. Yeah. Nobody cares, by the way. I mean, ask people, where did your doctor get his MD from?
You're right.
I mean, people go, oh, I don't know. Right. Why? If it's so important, right? Why don't you ask them? Right? Because wouldn't you choose your doctor based on what school they went to? Then no, they're just the best doctor at what they do. Oh, right. And this moves into this competency thing that you talk about, which is more than acquiring knowledge. It's about mastery. That's when you said that got me curious. And then you defined mastery, because I thought, okay, well, how are you going to define mastery? And you said it's a growth mindset.
Absolutely.
Right. And ladder burners embrace the growth mindset.
It's the half step to the door. You stand across the room. You're at the doorway. You take a half step. You never quite get there, but you never stop moving in that direction. And that's the beauty. It's enough to continue. Mastery is the overworked word of the journey. It's the process of learning, as opposed to just the outcome. So there's the plateau. I suppose it's fair to say, well, aren't you moving the goalposts? Well, I suppose you are, but the way I see it and the way psychologists talk about a growth mindset is you're not a failure. You just failed a test or failed a opportunity. It's like, okay, so what, Jay? Just get back on that horse. Well, I mean, but it's the fixed mindset, and that ladder burning is like, who ends up having the most trouble with failure are people with that closed mindset. It's like, I'm a perfectionist, or I didn't do it. I didn't succeed. What do you want? You didn't succeed. How many games did you play as an athlete that you didn't win? I don't know. How long do you kick yourself?
Yeah, most of them. I mean, I really think that over the course, I mean, when I played baseball as a kid, true story. When I played baseball, because my dad was my coach, right? We only won one game our first 2 years playing. Only one. We won one game in 2 years. And yet we showed up every day to play and practice, right? There's something to be said about that, isn't there?
Absolutely.
right? You know, that you keep showing up. Why? You don't win. Yeah, but I may. You know, and then of course it got better and better. And then I played on teams that, of course, won more games than they lost over the course of time. But, you know, the truth of the matter is you don't win them all. You may not win most of them.
Right. I, I don't know about you. I suspect it's true too that you say thinking about clients that I've had. I I'm not saying completely intuitive on this, but I've had clients that I've worked with that I can tell were involved in competitive sports, ab-
Mhm.
about the way they approach, everybody's pants are on fire when, oh my God, there's something's going on in this company. And it's like, yeah, something's going on.
Yeah.
Or there's a personal setback or a project didn't go through. And I think of one person in particular, it's a competitive swimmer. And he just turned that over in his mind,
Mhm.
He didn't obsess or lament. It was more like, what the heck's going on? And I thought that's a pretty cool way to approach it. And so I think that's what we need. I think people, and I think that's the challenge. It's like, we say, I'm not from the school of calling that lifelong learner. I think
Mhm.
that's fair. I just think it's like, it's not, to me, it's not giving back, it's giving. It's
Right.
not lifelong learning, it's learning. It's like, don't shut the door.
Mhm. Mm. I love that. It's not giving back, it's giving.
It's giving.
Yeah. If you run away from the show and you want one quote, there's your quote. It's not giving back, it's giving. That's beautiful. I want to just say this before we get out of competence and credibility. You have a subtitle in this chapter. It says, when credibility is missing, credibility is dot connection, not managing others. It's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I love that quote. Let's move on to the next pillar, right? So we have credibility, competence. Next pillar is build context.
Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what is building context?
The platform that needs to get built, whether you climb the ladder, burn the ladder, go on the seaside, doesn't matter. It's got to start, and it's not an overnight thing. And stop beating yourself up. And for those of you that want the instant answers, spoiler alert, there are no easy answers. There's no instant answers. Go out there, mingle, learn, enjoy it. Stop complaining about the money. If you don't like your job, go find another one. Okay. Now, how's that for a pep talk?
I love it. It's so
We
simple.
talk about jobs, and jobs or job descriptions are one way of setting the context. Jay, what am I responsible for? That's
Right.
what job descriptions do. I
Right.
say you have got to get beyond that, and you take ownership. It's one of the first thing I ask clients to do, and it's a technique I use. Take it, use it, steal it. I don't need credit for it. Here's what it involves. It's not just what you do. That's where the emphasis is, right? It's how you do it. That's the development part. That's the skill set part. That's where leaders should be spending their time with people that work for them and helping people improve. It's not just the what, it's the how to build the skills. And
Right.
the third piece of that is who. And that's the one that I think is often overlooked. So when you start looking at work, your job, by looking not just at what, but looking at how, and then thinking about who, I'm starting to build a context that's not just related to my specific job, although that's where it starts. Because I'm going to tell you, Jay, they're not all concentric circles. Those relationships start to get built out. And so the context in which you begin, this one's it's understanding what's the bigger picture here. How does this fit to what else is going on? some of this is I think a maturity factor inside of work. Some of it is more strategic thinking, but understanding the context is a great way to understand what's going on here and what is it that if it's you working, understand you have to deal with. And it's not just what, it's how and who. So I say it's the lay of the land. And back to the exploration, buddy, this is reconnaissance.
I love that.
I'm out on reconnaissance. It's like, who does that? You do that. You want to know. And this isn't for a gotcha sake. It's like, no, I want to understand, what's this business all about? Well,
Right.
why are you worried with that? Do your job. Well, I'm saying that is your job.
Yeah, so this is the thing that you say in this chapter, though, that is eye-opening to me, is it doesn't have to start in your next job. You could be doing this in your current
You
position.
should. Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
you need to really get job clarity, and you need to start looking at your job again, afresh, anew, about what your performance standards are.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. I think what happens is that so often, and I wish I'd have known this 30 years ago or
What
more,
do you mean? Me too.
or 40 years ago. I wish that instead of looking at the job and going, this is your job, and you just do it, you just do your job, instead of taking responsibility for the job, going, wait a minute here. And you say this, it's not that you're hijacking your job, but I'm going to take a look at this job really clear. I'm going to get real good clarity on it and go, okay, what is it that this job, what is the performance standards of this job? What is it that I'm really doing? And then I want to know, by the way, where is it? What is it that it fits? How is it that I can make what my best skills, my natural abilities, skills, talents are? How do I fill that job with those? Right? And then I need to be communicating with the person that I'm responsible to say, hey, listen, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that part of context?
It is. And the question and the experience around that, Jay, is what I'm saying is that never goes away. That should never go away. But it starts in your present job. I wouldn't do it, if I were coming in fresh to a job, I would give it a 3 to 6 months to understand, so you have some basic base of experience when you're new to the workforce. But people to go in and ask your boss for clarity. I just want you to know, I made a living off the lack of job clarity. A good 30 years of my career was spent in helping people understand what their jobs really were. And I'm no standards wizard. I didn't come in with, you're a senior associate in accounting, therefore you should. I didn't give them points. I don't know any of that stuff. It's just, let's just figure it out. Well, says who? Says you. You're in the job. I want to hear from you. Then take it to your boss and see how closely aligned you are.
I had a conversation with a man who owns a multi-million dollar company, right? And I mean, tens of millions of dollars is what this company generates a year net. And we were talking about this issue of training. And he said, I have an employee who has now come to me and said, I was not trained enough. And I was thinking about, in light of our conversation and in light of this book, and the truth of the matter is, what you're getting at really at the heart of the context is, that's a poor excuse. If you're taking control of your job, you're really responsible for your training.
Right.
Right?
Right. Go find your professors, for goodness sake.
Right. We said this last week, but I mean, when we think about it in context and you want clarity, don't blame your superior for their lack of clarity. That's your job. Get clear on it. Right? I mean, this is the part I think, we got so many people ghosting their jobs, leaving them unexpectedly, or changing jobs, right? And I think one of the reasons why is because they say, I don't have clarity around what I was doing. Well, whose problem was that?
Absolutely.
That's not your boss's problem. That was your problem. You should have been going and saying, "Hey, I don't understand this," or, "What can I do to do this better?" Or, how can I be better at what I do?"
Yeah.
You know, I you know, and you talk about things like discussing a promotion. I love this one. And I never thought about this in this chapter, but was create a new role for yourself.
Oh gosh. Is that possible? I didn't know that. I had a couple of very young accountants. Well, one in particular came up to me at halftime in one of these workshops I was doing. This person said, "I just made up my job because I wanted to go to France for the summer
Love that.
to be with some friends, and then I'll come back." So I set up what that would look like, what I'd be doing over there, the advantages of it, and then I'd come back.
I
Did you
love
go? Yeah, had a great time.
I
People, can't you make up a job? Yeah, you can. Well, I mean, will you get it? Who knows?
right. His name is Dr. Alan Patterson. The book, Burn Ladders, Build Bridges. We're about to get into the third pillar. It's the heart. It is the heart of the pillars. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Folks, listen, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapist, look, they offer the most advanced top-of-line equipment. I talk about it all the time, the Ultra G anti-gravity treadmill, Normatec compression sleeves, my favorite, Game Ready. That's just a few. They're certified in things like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. Look, when you're ready for your epic relief, your epic recovery, your epic results, go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors, listen, there's a reason why her previous clients, and there are a bunch of them, 1,000 call plus thousands of clients that said, "You know what? She is the legend of customer service." You need to find out why. Because she really is, her team really is that committed and devoted to you. You can learn more by going to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend, and I am so privileged to call you friend. I really am. Dr. Alan Patterson. We have been cut from the same cloth. We think we have the same mom, although neither one of them would claim us as being related, but we sure feel like that for sure. Would you not agree with that?
Oh God, it's Jay. It's a little frightening
It is.
to think you and I are related, and we didn't even up until last week. We didn't even know each other.
We didn't even know each other.
I didn't know I was on the lookout. Well, I'm always on the lookout.
I didn't either.
Me, cousin Jay.
Yeah. Listen, we just streamlined the same way. It's just so funny, everything that we talk about. Chapter 9, build relationships. And this is the heart of the 5 pillars. Build relationships means, and this is, by the way, this is where we get to the second part of the book, which is right, second part of the title. Here it is, the quote: building relationships means building bridges with people and across organizations. It is the defining step for pursuing a career with purpose and meaning. Yeah. Relationship building. It shouldn't be hard, but we make it hard, don't we?
Yeah, we make a big deal out of it. And I think, if you met your boss's boss in an elevator and I don't know, they dropped something and you picked it up, for me, that's just an excuse to crack a joke or something, and then you learn like, "Oh, Jay, so didn't he play for the Phillies or something?" I think he did, but the point is, we do make a big deal out of it, and for a lot of people, I think there's a reticence, and it's back to giving permission. I'm a talker. I'm right out there. I'll talk to anybody in line and make a joke and all that kind of stuff. But that's me. I understand not everybody's that way. But here we are. This point, first of all, I want to say, I know our time here, I'm mindful of the clock. I want to say that part of building credibility, the biggest credibility skill, the biggest, if I can make it any bigger, is active listening. That's the skill. Shut up and listen. Maybe not shut up. Listen. Learn how to ask questions. Learn how to clarify someone's point of view. Learn how to restate things, not to sound like a psychologist, but to make sure that you understand it and to let that person know you're listening. It is the biggest and most important. And right around the corner from that, I think it's another communication skill, is the ability to speak to people at their level of understanding. It's not if you get them. I mean, it's not if they get you. Nobody cares. It's if you get them. And it's also a sign of respect. Okay. Now, there are other skills. We know that character is important. But now that we're on the bridge, this is the magic. This is Disneyland. This is where possibilities are endless, because you are with people. Not everyone will be your full-time associates, but building bridges, it enables you to find folks that shared what you share and to do something meaningful. I mean, it's not because you know a lot. You're good at what you do. So a little bit like the Olympics. I don't want to make it sound like it's out of reach. I'm saying this is the goal. And the way we talk about it, Jay, the way you and I talk about it, probably more than any other way, is effective leadership. Because really what you're doing is that you're creating the conditions for other people to be successful. It's not you in the center of that world. It's other people. This isn't a religious statement. This isn't an altruistic statement. This is a human nature statement. You help other people succeed, it will come back to you. And I don't know, guess what? You'll make more money. You'll find opportunities. How do I know that? I'm more on the belief side than I am the evidence side. Although if you boil it down to the most effective bosses and the emotional intelligence and their or Adam Grant and givers and takers, you look at this called by something else, and it's not coming back. It's going out. It's a process of integration. It's addition, not subtraction. We get the creativity back. You get the fun back. You get the joy back. You don't have to worry about getting the right answer, because you're pursuing that. Let's put a guy in space, a person in space. What do you say, Jay? You think that's possible? No, I don't think so. To hell, it's not.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Let's figure out a way to do it. I don't know.
But it's the bridge that's the magic. And I now got all kinds of metaphors. It's where the transformations take place. You gain everything. There's nothing lost on the bridge.
You have two quotes in here. Ladder climbers see connections and relationships as a mean to an end. Ladder burners see connections and relationship as the end.
That's it. That's the nugget.
That's beautiful. But then there's something else that you just said. Relationships transform everything.
Everything.
Powerful beyond the force of doing everyday business. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, because
who knows what you and I have in store? Who knows?
We don't know. We don't. This is the thing. Dr. P, when you and I connect, right, like we have done, I don't know what our possibilities are together. I don't know what could happen. I don't know. But I do know that because of our relationship that's in its early stages, we've already made a tear in the universe.
I hope so.
Well, I know we have. I mean, there's people like there's people listening, Payman and Fayez, Ariel, Arif, listening, and there's people who listen and watch the show and are going to download the show. We've already made a disruption in the universe because of the relationship we have. How many people are not thinking that the relationships that they are making right now are truly disrupting the universe. It's an amazing thing to think about,
It is.
that the relationship with the people that you are making right now is disrupting the universe, because the universe on its own does not want us to be related.
No. And you know, I'm a Goldman groupie, as I think you are too.
Yeah.
It's like we're born to connect.
Right. Yes.
Come on. We're born to connect. Yes.
Yeah.
People want to be recognized. People want to be seen. People want to be respected. People want to be loved, and they want to give love in return. I mean, talk to me, Jay. It's, you know,
Yeah.
this is church with a capital C. I'm not trying to, I am trying to convert. I had a fellow write me, I should send you this, a fellow I grew up with in Hendersonville.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I think, a little commercial here. He said, I think what you've got is better than Deming and better than Covey, because you're giving people practical answers, and what you need are disciples. And I said, well, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But here's my point. And I want to say one thing before we conclude this chapter. It's the next stage, and I just want to, I don't want to steal your thunder on how you're going to set this up. I want the bridge to be known as, in the picture is that Jenny did such a great job on. It's the sea of meaning. It's like, this is where we are. You know, take a look around what's going on. And these are relationships. I'm not saying they're lifelong. Some are. I'm not saying they're all at work. They're not. But what I'm trying to do is to hit you in the place where we both connect. We all connect. Clayton Christensen, have you read his stuff?
I have not.
Okay, was a Harvard professor. I'll give you a reference. What a brilliant man. And he wrote the book on disruption, whatever that title is, in the mid 2000s. That's Clayton.
Oh, yeah. I do remember. Yeah.
You should read. I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna get you a copy. You should hear what he talks about in the latter days of his life. He sadly died of cancer not that long ago. It is all about what we're talking about. How will you measure your life? Jay Izzo, how will you measure your life? Clayton Christensen, master disruptor, who talked about how little oil companies brought down big oil companies. And I'm saying, I think we've got it. I think we've got the answer. I think we've had the answer, but I don't think it's just as simple as, take water and add it to this. It's like, no, I think the goal is to get people pointed in the right direction, which I say is to the bridge, not to the top of the ladder. Let's get people going there, Jay. Competence, credibility, understand context, and get people seriously building relationships. Some are very pragmatic and instrumental, but by the bridge, you want the skill set now that I think is the second most important skill set: influence and persuasion, for all the right reasons. How you get people bought in, that's creating impact. That's what we're going to skip that stone on the pond.
Yeah, that's the fourth pillar, is to create impact. And by the way, think of this. You and I talked about this after the show. How is it possible to create impact if you can't have a relationship?
You can't. You can force it, but that's exactly what we're not doing.
Right. You want to make an impact, but you can't make an impact without creating relationships.
You can't.
You can't do it from behind a social media account. It's not. I'm sorry.
Doesn't happen.
It's not really happening. This is the thing. You've got. That's the fourth pillar, by the way, creating impact. So let's talk about that real quick, because I know we're going to run out of time here before we're going to get all this done. But let's talk about what that really means, creating impact.
It means that you say a tear in the universe. I say, I use jobs, a dent in the universe. It's making a difference. It's doing something that is meaningful. And I'm from the school of the greater good.
Mm. And then the last pillar, of course, is create meaning, and we're up against it. But if you were to give a what a simple definition of creating meaning, if you can, what would that be?
It means liberating, helping people liberate their sense of intrinsic motivation. That you, Jay Izzo, get to enjoy life based on what you think is critical and important. That's part of my job.
You are amazing for such short notice. Again, as always, tell people how to get a hold of you, Dr. P.
Well, I would go to, you can write me at trouble@ladderburners.com, website ladderburners.com.
That's awesome. Folks, it's Burn Ladders, Build Bridges, available at Amazon bookstores near you. Ask if they don't have it, tell them put it on the shelf immediately. Folks, that's a show. You know what I say to you every week, and that is this: you are in control of three things in your life: your attitude, your effort, and getting back up again. It may not be easy. I never said it was, but you do have control over it. Take control and do it now. I'm going to be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great book. It's going to be another great show. And folks, do me a favor. Wherever you listen to this show, would you give us a positive review? We would love that. Tell your friends too, please, to tune in. You know what I say to you every week? Thank you so much, and ciao, everybody.